Hello, this is Andrine, a Jewish American priestess, and we're in the month of Shevat right now, which is the month where we celebrate the birthday of the trees. And so I'm working with different tree imagery this month, and today we're going to look at roots. What are the roots that are coming down from the seeds that we've planted? What is helping us to establish those roots, and how can we strengthen them? And possibly even how can we prune them to make for greater growth? So I'm going to pull out some cards today from the Wildwood Tarot deck, and we'll choose 3 different cards, and then I'm going to do a scatter reading, which is basically just taking a handful of the Hebrunes and scattering them down and see how they fall. So let's shuffle it up and see if we can get 3 cards with messages for you today. And once you choose which card you like, I'll put the timestamps down below. It'll take you directly to your reading. If you feel drawn to more than one card, feel free to listen to more than one reading and or all 3 if need be. Here's card number 1. Let's see what we get for card number 2. There it is. And one more, please. All right, so for card number 1, we have the Knight of Stones. It says horse. Knight of Stones, that's corresponding to the Knight of Pentacles. For card number 2, we have the Page of Bows, the Stoat. Page of Bows is the Page of Wands. And for card number 3, we have the 4 of Vessels, Boredom. That is the 4 of Cups. Okay, so I'm going to scooch this in a bit and take a moment to discern which of these cards is calling to you today. Knight of Stones, horse, Page of Bows, Stoat, or 4 of Vessels, Boredom. And let's find out what roots we're establishing right now and how to strengthen them. And I will see you in your reading. Welcome, card number 1. Those of you who chose the Knight of Stones, horse. Let's take a look at this card closely. Looks like a very old drawing of a horse, like something almost primitive. And the horse, when I think of horse, I think of something that's wild and free, something that has its own mind. And it's also sometimes seen as something that carries us forward in terms of spirit. But the Knight of Stones, the Knight of Pentacles in traditional tarot, is a very slow moving, persistent character. So it's interesting, the contrast here. This horse seems like it's very lively, tail flying in the air. And the stones are earth, right? They're the part of us that touches in with the earth. So this horse is very grounded. It's very connected to the earth. You can see the earth flying up under its hooves. So however that resonates for you with the Knight of Stones, this horse that is connecting with the earth, carrying forward with spirit. That's the beginning of our reading. So I think it's really significant that we have an earth sign here, because we're talking about roots. We're talking about roots that are going down into the earth. And the horse itself is kicking the earth up, so in some way tilling it. And yet, traditionally, that Knight of Pentacles is somebody who has got very slow, methodical growth. So great for roots. Great card for roots. We're going to set him off to the side here. And we're going to take our Hebrunes, and I'm just going to shuffle them up and then toss down a handful and see how that reads. All right, so we have a handful here. I'm going to back it out because we have some that went up real high here. And let's see, I'm going to take out all the ones that are face down, and we'll read what is left over. Oh, that one's the blank, so we'll leave that in there. Okay. So what we have here, let me adjust my camera a little bit so we can see all of them a little bit more closely. All right. All right, so when we're talking about a root system, generally we have a seed at the top and roots that come down from there. So we'll start at the top. And at the top we have the letter Vav. Interestingly, I think of Vav as representing a taproot with a seed at the top and that root penetrating deep into the ground. So we've got a very strong start here at the top. The root is establishing itself. We have a very, very strong connection. And Vav is the word and in Hebrew. So it is all about connection. It's about establishing connection with the divine, with ourselves, and with another. So the Vav is sitting at the top here, penetrating deep down into the earth. The Vav is sometimes seen as a tent peg or a hook. So it connects two things together. And there is my chime saying, yes, it connects two things together and it tethers things to the earth. So I love that with regards to our horse here, who is an earth sign, and he is kicking up that dirt. But he's also connected to it, inextricably connected to the earth, because the horse is of earth like we are. The word in Hebrew for earth or mud is Adama, and we are Adam, humans. So we've got this very strong connection to earth with the Vav at the top. The Vav is the number 6 in Gematria, and it speaks to those 6 directions that many native cultures call upon for connection with the divine. So the north, south, east, west, and then above and below also are connected when we are establishing place. So the number 6, the connection of that taproot, also just a spine, just a tall spine, and a sense of hearing. Vav is connected to the sense of hearing in the Sefer Yetzirah, which is the book of creation. So it's about being able to hear divinity as it speaks to us, as well as hearing our connection with the earth, hearing the earth speak to us, because the divinity exists within the earth as well. It is connected with the gallbladder in the body. So a little bit of gall, right? You've got some gall in you. And this horse looks like it's got a little bit of gall too. It's kicking it up, kicking up the dirt. So with the Vav connecting to the earth, with the Vav really penetrating into the earth and connecting to it like a tent peg, holding something down, holding maybe our wild self down so that we can be tethered, is a establishing place for that root to start. We plant a seed, it penetrates into the earth. Just below and to the right of that, we have the letter Tzadi, and Tzadi is upside down here, but it is the symbol that goes with the month of Shevat. It is the letter that is connected to the tribe of Asher, who may have been named after the Asherah, the feminine divine who dwells within the trees, and so also connected to the month of Shevat, where we celebrate the new year of the trees. It's the first letter of the word tzedek and tzadik, justice and righteous. It's the foundation of thought in the Sefer Yetzirah, and it is the letter that is the right foot in the body. So setting forth on the right foot. It's the number 90 in Gematria. 90, which is 10 times 9. 9 is the letter Tet, which is the first letter of the word Tov, meaning good. And 10 times that is that ultimate manifestation of goodness, which is justice or righteousness. But I'm noticing that this is upside down in our reading. So the first radical from this root coming down is a little bit of an upturned justice that's happening. So there may be some challenges right now in your rooting to finding justice. As we get carried forward with spirit by the Knight of Stones here, this horse is kicking up his heels, maybe rebelling against being tethered down. A little lower on the reading we have the letter Gimel, also upside down. Gimel is about setting forward. It's a foot or a camel. It's about going forward quickly toward justice, because Gimel rules over the planet Jupiter in the sky. Jupiter, whose name in Hebrew is Tzedek, meaning justice. So back up to justice. Again, overturned. We're having trouble going forward because of this upside down justice up here, I think. And it's okay, because we're planting deep right now. We're trying to figure out our way forward. Our seeds have established a root, but we want that root to be healthy. Next to that, we have the Ein Sof. The Ein Sof is the blank, the unknown, a manifestation of the infinite. That soil into which we plant all the seeds. Again, another chime. The soil into which we plant all the seeds is here. It gives us infinite possibility, the potential for anything that can come, despite the fact that maybe we have overturned justice, that we're having difficulty moving forward. The potential is still here. This says to me, everything is made up of divinity. Down below, we have the Yud. The Yud, which is the number 10, and it's that picture of a seed, right? It's a seed or a sperm, the foundation of sexuality, in fact. So also upside down here below the Ein Sof, the first letter of the Yud He Vav He, the divine name, which means becoming. And the Yud is that letter which represents a seed of potential. The seed that we plant in the earth, the seed that has the potential for everything coming into fruition. It's the smallest of all the letters, and yet it contains every letter within it. You'll notice that every letter has a Yud in it somewhere. Everything has to start with that dot, and everything starts being written on the blank. It's the number 10, like the 10 Sephirot, which are the divine emanations. The 10 commandments, which are these boundaries that we are set up to follow in order to establish good growth. And also the 10 plagues that are coming in Egypt. The 10 plagues that humble the Pharaoh and allow him the softening of his heart to release the people. It's connected to the tribe of Gad. Gad is the brother of Asher, interestingly. They're both the sons of Zilpah. And Gad is also said to possibly be a Semitic deity, the Semitic deity of luck. And again, way down low, luck is overturned here in the reading. So there's some kind of difficulty with justice, with moving forward, with establishing a healthy seed. And down even lower is the Dalet. Dalet is the lowest letter on the reading. Dalet is a doorway. It's representative of the feminine genitalia, right? So the delta of Venus, the doorway through which all humans are birthed. And I think really interesting here, because we have the Dalet being the doorway, being the birth canal. we have the seed, which is like the sperm, and up here the vav, which is like the phallus. It's like this. It's like the yesod. So we have much sexual energy here, and this knight of stones, which is kicking up his heels. Very earthy reading here, but not particularly feeling healthy. The Dalit is a doorway, so it gives us the potential for transition and transformation. Sometimes I see Dalit as corresponding to the death card in tarot. So death, not necessarily being a literal death, but as we know, all seeds have to die in their incarnation in order to sprout. So a seed is sequestered inside a small pod, and it has to die. It has to break open in order to grow. So even though things are looking a little shady here, even though this horse is kicking up the dirt, that plowing, that tilling of the earth is necessary. Sometimes we have to break things up in order to see growth. That's what I'm seeing here right now in this reading, and I know that it can be challenging to hear some of these things sometimes. But I do want to say that there's hope here because the infinite is here. And the infinite imbues all of these things. That even when things are challenging, even when we have wildness that is maybe running amok here, maybe even if we have justice overturned and we're having difficulty moving forward, and our seeds are deep, deep in the earth, there's always a potential for transformation and change at the bottom of it all. And I'm going to pull out one more letter today, just to get one more read on this. And I've got the letter Hey. So I'm going to read this as our advice for the situation. The letter Hey is the first letter of the word Hineni, meaning here I am. And it's about showing up. It's about being available and willing to show up for divinity when one hears one's name called by the divine. And so what I'm seeing here, and it looks, it's interesting, it looks like roots coming down, right? 2 roots coming down off that, underneath the ground here. We're talking about roots here. Our advice in our situation is to be patient, show up, continue to show up even when things are messed up, even when things are looking like an overturning of justice, even when the seeds are planted so deep it doesn't look like they'll ever sprout. Continue to show up for the divine, and the divine will continue to show up for you. We have all 4 letters of the divine name here, the Yud, He, Vav, He now. So that potential for becoming is here, even in the darkest of times, even when we're under the earth and we can't see the roots growing and we don't know what direction they're going, even though we have to break up the earth in order to give room for growth. Continue to show up. Continue to answer, here I am. Continue to answer, Hineni, I am available for service. And that will be honored, I think, by the divine. I see divinity right here in the center. That blank space, that ability for infinite potential, transformation. So for those of you who chose the Knight of Stones, the horse here today, I think you need to hold still. Just hold still and answer yes when the divine calls, even if things are feeling tumultuous underneath. And we'll see you next time when things start to sprout. Hello, card number 2. Those of you who chose the Page of Bows of the Stoat. Now, the Page of Bows is traditionally the beginning of a new thing. It's often seen as a fiery potential, like a torch lighting up, like a match striking. And the stoat, I don't know a whole lot about stoats. They look like a little tiny weasel to me. I guess that's what it is. He's got that quick mind and the ability to race forward. I love that he's red colored, like the fire. And back in the background, I see this waterfall coming down. Beautiful woods and mountains in the far distance. And this stoat looking very alert, very ready to move forward and capture whatever is coming. So a spark of inspiration and potential here coming for you in the rooting that we're taking. I love that his tail looks like a root coming down around the branches here. So a root coming down, but really eager to start, really eager to get moving, having some inspiration to move forward quickly and with fire, with passion. So that's our first message here for your rooting, is this inspired passion. And the way we're going to do this reading today is I'm going to shuffle up my Hebrunes and grab a handful and just cast them down, and we'll see what kind of rooting reading we have today. Oh boy, okay. Got a bunch. I'm going to take out all the ones that are face down in the reading. Got a bunch of them stacked up here today. Interesting. So, because this is a rooting reading, we're going to start at the top and read our way down. And at the top of our reading, we have the letter Mem. The Mem is the mother letter of water. It's one of the creation elements. So let me pull this up. You can see it's a womb. And so it's about gestation. Something is gestating, and I think that's beautiful for a rooting reading, because at the top we're going to have that seed that is gestating in the earth. It's about transformation through water in particular, as the rains come down and the snows potentially wherever you are. That wet season, that winter season, is the thing that's nourishing us, even if it's cold and even if it's taking a long time. The Mem is the number 40 in Gematria, representing that 40 weeks of gestation in the human body. And a transformation through water, it is the belly in the body, the amniotic fluid around every mammal that is born. And it represents that 40 years in the wilderness that the Israelites took to establish themselves as a people. And it's about emotion. Water frequently represents emotion. So emotion, gestation, grief even, tears, a wet season in the year. So the Mem is at the top of our reading, and it is saying there is a gestation happening. And that's perfect for this. And then as we come further down, it's interesting how they come in a line, almost like a caterpillar here. We have the letter Shin right beneath that, and Shin is the mother letter of fire. So we have the mother letter of water and the mother letter of fire here right off the top. And that's very interesting because Shin is upside down in the reading. You can see it usually looks like this, face up, with those flames licking up from the bottom. The fact that it's upside down here is really interesting because the earth is cold right now. And it is said during the month of Shevat that 3 coals are tossed down from heaven, and it kind of looks like those 3 coals coming down from heaven. On the 7th of Shevat, we get a coal that warms the air. On the 15th of Shevat, we get a coal that warms the water in the trees. And on the 23rd of Shevat, the 3rd coal warms the earth. So it's even though it's upside down, and so that can be seen as negative, I think I can see it more as inner, that it's representing those 3 coals being tossed down from heaven. The Shin represents the Shekhinah, the indwelling presence of the divine feminine in each of us. So the fact that it's here beneath the surface, beneath the ground, is the Shekhinah is deep in the earth. And those coals are coming down from heaven. And that fire is just beneath the surface. And with the Stoat, with the Page of Bows, this is that fiery, inspired character who's starting a new thing. The Shin represents the sun and the moon and the stars in the sky. All those creation elements of fire, they're right underneath the surface. Even if we can't see them, a lot of times there's cloud cover at this time of year, so maybe we don't see the sun very much, or we don't see the moon or the stars. They're still there. They're always there, just beneath the surface. That's why I'm seeing the Shin here today. And we can trust in that inner light, that inner fire, that inspiration that we have going on as we start forward on a new project. a new seed that's being planted, and the roots coming down. And the shin letters look like roots coming down. Next to the shin, we have the letter kuf. And kuf is the letter that begins the word kadosh. Kadosh meaning sacred, sacredness, holiness. It is that foundation of sacredness coming down from the divine. It also means kof, which means monkey, so earthly stuff. And you can see it's got this monkey tail, but it looks so much like the stoat tail. Look at that. So you have a stoat here, right? We're going to call this our stoat because he looks so much like a stoat. Fascinating. So we've got an animal. We've got an animal nature here that's underneath the ground. But if it's anything like the stoat, it's lively. It's excited. Just like a monkey jumping around. That means stoats are like, I mean, if they're like the weasels or the martens of the forest, they're very much like active in that same way that a monkey would be. So we have this balancing between the thing that is holy, kadosh, and the thing that is animal. And there's not a conflict there necessarily. Animals are inherently holy. They don't have the same baggage that humans do. And it's under the ground, and it's wiggling its way around. It's trying to get out. It's trying to find its way up. I love that. It's a very interesting reading. It's a very lively reading. In fact, the shape of this even looks like the stoat in its way. So something rooting down really wants to break forth. There's something very inspiring coming. And the kuf is the number 100 in Gematria, so it's got that 10 times 10 energy of the ultimate manifestation of divinity, because the yud, which is 10, begins the first letter of the divine name, the yud he vav he, and 10 times 10 gives us holiness or sacredness. The sacredness of our animal selves, the sacredness of the earth, the sacredness of the fire that is inspiring us to grow. Lovely. Beneath the kuf, we have the letter tet. Tet, which is also a vessel. It's also seen as a womb sometimes. The opening is at the top in this case, but it's a vessel as well. And it's 9, so it's 9 months of gestation in the body. The same way that the mem is 40 weeks of gestation in the body. So another pregnancy here. Another potential for more growth. Maybe even a second seed under the ground that we haven't seen yet. And it's the first letter of the word tov, meaning good. So something really good is happening underneath the ground here right now. This contains goodness within it, this gestation, this basket. And as we were talking about animals a minute ago, Tet is sometimes seen as a snake. A snake which gets a bad rap in Torah, but in fact, the snake tells the truth. And the snake transforms. The snake has that ability to shed its skin and become something new. And the stoat looks a little snaky. He's got a tail that looks like a snake coming down here. So more animals here, more goodness and more craftiness. I would say craftiness not in a bad way, but goodness, transformation, the desire to move. It even looks like a snake coming up. And the snake is often represented in the ancient Hebrew as the divine feminine again. So there's something divine here and something lively underneath the ground. These roots that are burrowing down into the ground have so much potential for growth. Beneath all of this, I'm seeing the letter tzadi, and interestingly, this showed up in the same position upside down in the previous reading. So if you're drawn to card number 1, you may want to go back and watch that too. We have the tzadi, and it's upside down. Now, tzadi is the letter that begins the word tzedek, meaning justice, or tzadik, meaning righteous one. And it is the letter that's affiliated with the month of Shevat. So Shevat is affiliated with justice. It's affiliated with the trees. You can see that tzadi looks a little bit like a tree. It's got the earth across the bottom and then a trunk and then 2 branches coming up. The tzadi is affiliated with the tribe of Asher, which sounds very much like Asherah, and I don't think that's an accident. Asher means joy or happiness. And Asherah is the feminine indwelling divine presence who lives in the trees. And righteousness, right? So Tzadi is the number 90. So number 9, Tet, times 10. So ultimate manifestation of goodness. And yet in our reading it's upside down. So something has maybe gone wrong. I mean, it has the roots coming down if you look at it that way. If you look at this as earth and these two branches as roots instead, it could be that we've got some more roots coming down, but because it's Tzadi and it's upside down, way down in the reading, I'm going to go with there's been some miscarriage of justice. There's been some problem with righteousness. And maybe it's because of this animal nature. Maybe it's because we're too eager to do something. We're too eager to jump forward and we're not really taking the time that is required for steady, strong growth. So underneath all this energy and enthusiasm, a little bit of miscarriage of justice here. We need to write that somehow. And one of the ways we can do that is with the Lamed. The Lamed is the letter that means heart, mind, really tapping into our heart and mind and the connection between those two. And you can see that Lamed looks a little bit like growth. It also looks a little bit like that Stoat. Boy, that Stoat is everywhere in all these letters. It's got the land across and then a sprout coming up and a root going down, but it just looks so much like that with the head and the body and the tail. Our Stoat again, underground here, picking his head up, excited to start. The Lamed, which is about emotion again, it's heart, mind, and it's about hope, inspiration, aspiration, reaching up for connection with the divine and planting oneself deeply in the earth. It's also about the intestines in the body, so it's about absorbing what we've taken in, learning things and absorbing what we've taken in and excreting what we no longer need. So that's one way to write our Tzadi here, write our justice, is to learn what we need to learn, hope, and really listen to our heart mind, connect with the divine, connect with the earth. Don't rush, I think is what I'm hearing here, is don't rush. Take time for the gestation that's necessary. We got gestation here twice, so something is definitely going to take some time, but I can see the enthusiasm to jump ahead. And way at the bottom we have the Dalet, and fascinating, Dalet was also in the previous reading. It's a doorway and it's face down. It's the doorway to the next thing, and it's so low on the reading, and it's so interesting that it's face down. The Dalet is that doorway, but that doorway seems closed right now. The doorway is not, it's not time. It's not time to go through that doorway. It is about transitions. It's about liminal spaces, like that space between. When you stand in the doorway, you're neither in this room nor that. And at that point, in many Jewish homes, we touch the mezuzah. We reach up for the divine. When that doorway is closed, we need to honor that. We need to wait for it to open again. Dalet is sometimes seen as the birth canal, the doorway through toward life. And it can be also seen as the feminine genitalia in that case. So if that doorway is closed to you, don't try to push your way through. Give it time. Spring is coming. Dalet is sometimes related to the death card in tarot because it is about transitions and transformations. Not a literal death necessarily, but the death that is change. The death that is change. Change, shini. Same letter as shin above. So we have some kind of transformation deep at the bottom of this root. Something is transforming. Something is not ready to open. That doorway is not ready to open. So despite your enthusiasm, despite your energy and your inspiration to jump forward, remember that gestation takes time, that the roots are coming down right now. They're not coming up. The sprout is not coming up yet. We've got this animal nature here, this snaky nature even, that wants to push up. But we need to listen to the divine, listen to the sacredness of the situation. Understand that there's good there. But with this miscarriage of justice down here below, we need to work with our heart. We need to work with our heart, mind, and wait for that doorway to be open. Wait for the time of the birth. Because if we try to push that birth too quickly, the thing will not be mature enough to be viable. So for those of you who chose the Page of Bows, the Stoat here, remember, gestation takes time. Let those roots establish themselves. Don't be too eager to try to break through. Give it time. Give it the time that it's due. And goodness will come in the end. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you when the time is ripe for sprouts to begin. Hello, card number 3. Those of you who chose the Four of Vessels, Boredom. Interesting. She is sitting here looking quite miserable. She's got 2 vessels above and 2 larger vessels on each side here. So there's a lot of emotion, a lot of water pouring down, maybe tears, maybe grief. She looks bored, but she's got so much, right? So there's so much abundance here. There's those vessels are so full, they're overflowing. And out of those vessels seem to be growing amazing growth as well. So as we're speaking to roots being established, it's easy to be bored when we're waiting for something to grow. But the Four of Vessels is watering those roots. So we have a lot of watering going on. We just need to wait and establish ourselves. I like that she's barefoot in this picture too. She's like, her toes are the roots going into the ground. So I'm going to set her off to the side here, and we're going to pull out some Hebrunes. And the way I'm going to do this today is by shuffling up the Hebrunes in the bowl and grab a handful and toss them down, and we'll see how this rooting spread appears. Okay, is that the Ein Sof? It is. Wow. So we get to keep all the letters here today. Fascinating. So in this reading, we're going to start at the top because that's how the roots go. They start with a seed and then they come down into the earth, right? And so here we have at the very top, we have the letter Samech. Samech is the letter that means cycles and seasons. It's a circle, so it's like a wheel that turns, like the cycle of the year. And it also has this connotation of boundaries, right? So it's a circle that's surrounding something. The word sovev begins with samech. And so it's about being surrounded with protection. In the Paleo Hebrew, the samech looked like a thorn, and you can see there's a little bit of a thorn at the top still. So we have this protective surrounding that's happening. And it's a seed, right? So it's sitting at the top. There's a seed coat that is protecting the inner part of the seed. And that seed has to break open in order to make roots. So despite the fact that there are boundaries, those boundaries sometimes have to break in order for growth to happen. So you may have been surrounded by something comforting and protective, and there's been a break in that. And that's what allows for the growth. Because it can be boring just to be surrounded and protected all the time, right? You don't want to be bored. How can we fix this? Well, the first letter we have below the samech is the letter chet. And this one's got a little bit of an extra mark on it. It's just the wood here. But the chet is the first letter of the word chai, which means life. It's also the first letter of the word choshek, which means darkness. And since it's upside down in the reading, there's some kind of darkness I'm seeing here. Of course, we're under the ground, so that makes sense that this seed is in darkness right now. The chet is also about contracts and commitments. It looks a little bit like a chuppah, a marriage canopy, so there may have been some kind of relationship contract or commitment that's been broken, that's upside down, that's gone into darkness. So something, like I said, that samech, sometimes that protection needs to be broken in order for growth to happen. It's really unfortunate. But underneath the ground here in the darkness, we have life, the potential for life it is the number 8, so it has that infinity loop in it, and life is this infinite cycle that goes, into periods of darkness and light. So something has happened underneath our protection that has caused darkness, a break in maybe some commitment, some contract. It says boredom on this card, but I see her as looking sad. There's some grief happening. And again, with all the pouring of water, it's like tears. Grief. Maybe boredom because you happen to be alone right now because of some break that's happened in a contract, a commitment of some sort of relationship. And this idea that this is going to go on forever, right? Boredom is because I'm afraid this is how it's always going to be. But as we know, things shift. Light and darkness come and go. And below that, we have the letter Nun, which is on its face. It looks like this usually. It's a symbol of somebody who is kneeling down and with their head bowed, a little bit of humility. And this one's completely prostrated. This one has fallen on its face with some kind of grand humility. Maybe there's been a mistake that's been made, and there's a huge amount of humility or even humiliation that's come with that. The other thing about Nun to remember is that it begins the word Ness meaning miracle. So even though humility is primarily affiliated with the Nun, there's also the miracle, and there's a miracle that often comes with becoming humble, understanding your own humility, so that you can see the miracle in the situation, even if you're bored, even if things are not going like you hoped. They're not staying the way you wanted them to stay with the Samek. Something is broken, but that seed has to break in order for the growth to happen. And it's like the tower has to fall, right? The tower has to come down. And the Nun, I think of it as the hermit, right? So it's that humbleness, taking time alone, taking time apart, maybe taking time to grieve in order to find the next thing. It's important to be humble, to be in solitude at times in order to understand what's been broken, to understand the darkness, to go into the darkness, to go into the shadow self in order to find the humility and the miracle in the situation. Nun has this concept of faithfulness and loyalty. And sitting here next to the Het, which is upside down, it makes me think there's been some break in faithfulness. Somebody has harmed somebody else. And it may be that you were harmed by a break in trust, or maybe that somebody that you love was harmed by your lack of loyalty or faithfulness. But that means it's time to spend time alone, one way or the other, in order to find a miracle in the situation. The Nun in the Zohar represented deceit. So there's been some kind of miscarriage of truth. So that's maybe why this person's alone. Either they have been betrayed or they have betrayed someone else. Let's look further deep into the roots and see what else comes out. So we have the letter Tet here, over on this branch, and the letter Tet is the first letter of the word Tov, which means good. So something good is going to come out of this, or can come out of this, if that root gets established and taken care of. Tet is seen as a snake sometimes. You can see it looks a little bit like a snake with its tail curling up over the edge there. Snakes are all about transformation, shedding their skin, becoming renewed. And Tet is the number 9 in Gematria, so it has this connotation of the 9 months of pregnancy in a human, so renewal and rebirth, but also the 9 shofar blasts, the 9 sets of 9 shofar blasts that happen on Rosh Hashanah and the New Year. So there's some kind of hope for renewal here, a little bit lower and off to the other side of this. Something good that can come out of this. Even if it seems snaky. Snakes, the snake is given a really bad rap in the Torah as the one who tempted Eve or whatever, but the snake told the truth. So that's the thing to remember. Deceit over here, but truth and goodness over here with the snake. And the snake often represents the divine feminine, that was suppressed by patriarchal religious leaders. So folks don't like to think about the snake as a good thing, but in fact, snakes renew. Snakes are honest. They are what they appear to be, which is sometimes a relief. And right below that, we have the letter Zayin. Zayin is the letter that is a sword or a scepter. It usually looks like this, and it's completely turned over in our reading here, face down into the ground. So our Zayin is that sense of sovereignty in our lives, and it's face down. It's been tossed to the ground. So there's a feeling of not having very much sovereignty in this situation. Zayin is the number 7 in Gematria, 7 being the number of days of creation. So it corresponds to the day of Shabbat, and specifically the Shabbat bride, the Shekhinah, the divine feminine power. And she's upside down here, so something is not going well, and the inner sovereignty has been lost. And that's an issue here with this boredom, that we don't feel sovereign in our bodies, that there's darkness right now, that there's humiliation maybe. The transformation hasn't yet taken place, so that sovereignty is face down in the dirt. It doesn't mean it has to stay that way forever. Interestingly, I see Tet as the Empress in Tarot and Zayin as the Emperor. So the Empress is up and the Emperor is down. So there's something, maybe that's it, that the yang energy, the masculine energy, is needing to be down right now, and the feminine energy up. And even though Samekh it doesn't specifically relate to pregnancy because it's that big round moon shape in the sky, up in the sky up here, the seed. It reminds me of a pregnancy. So we've got several humiliations, deceit, darkness, and loss of sovereignty here. But upright, Tet, good, snake. Upright, Samekh, boundaries, strong protection. And the lowest on our reading and the last in our reading is the Ein Sof. Ein Sof, which is the blank. It's the earth itself, the earth into which we plant all the seeds. So all these seeds of darkness, seeds of humility, seeds of goodness, and the seeds of sovereignty are all planted into the earth, into the Ein Sof, into that chaos and that boundlessness and the deep, the infinite, the unknown, that eternal beingness that is the divine. So as these roots grow down into the ground, at the very bottom of it is divinity, is eternity, is the unknown. That's maybe why we're bored, because we don't know what's going to happen next. We can't always know what's going to happen next. So remember that a seed sometimes needs to get broken in order to grow. That if there's been darkness and a breaking of commitments, disloyalty, humiliation even, remember that there's transformation is possible. That sovereignty is down right now, but it can grow up. It can be upturned if we can reach into the infinite, into that, the 8 is the infinite, but this is the ultimate infinite, the blank, the 0. We don't need to remain bored, but we can grieve our way through this. I feel like pulling out one more letter today for this reading. Let's reach in and see what we got. Dalit, wow, fascinating. Okay, so Dalit, the doorway. This is sort of in every single reading and the last place. So there's a doorway. There's a doorway through, and that's transformation. The Dalit is the feminine genitalia. It's the birth canal, the way through, the delta of Venus, the way through which everything is born, that sprout of seed breaking up through the earth to be reaching toward the light. And the Dalit corresponds to the death card in my book. So it's that death, it's that transformation that takes place. Not a literal death, but in some ways it's a death, because a seed can't remain a seed forever. It has to die as a seed in order to grow as a plant. The same way an infant inside its mother's womb doesn't know anything about the outside world and perceives a birth as a death, because it's change. It's a major change. There's some major change that's happening, that's coming. It's coming soon. And it gives us an opportunity to step through that doorway and be reborn, to come out of our boredom, to refresh ourselves, to shed our skin, to maybe try to upright our humility and find the miracle there, to tap into our darkness but find life, to grab hold of our sovereignty, break through. So for those of you who chose the 4 vessels today, this has been your reading. I'll look forward to seeing you when the seed sprouts.